So it is my pleasure to declare the mock draft officially open. The pick is in. All right, let's dive into it here with the number one pick. This is not a surprise. Mel has the Titans taking Cam Ward, quarterback Miami. At number two, the Cleveland Browns selecting Travis Hunter, the ridiculously versatile superstar Heisman winner out of Colorado. With number three, the third pick in 2025 mock draft, Mel Kiper 4.0, the New York Giants select Abdul Carter, linebacker, Penn State. Got a little bit of Micah Parsons in him here. And I've got a tweet from Zay that says Abdul should be the first pick, hands down. Mel, your thoughts?
Well, first pick, I guess he is number one on some boards. He's number one on boards. I'm having number two, really 1A to Travis Hunter. Travis has been number one since August. You can argue Abdul Carter. I get it. He's been number two for a long time on that board because he is an attacker off the edge. And when you have the ability to bend and you have the ability to produce like he did this year after he was moved from off ball to outside, sure. Yeah, why wouldn't the Giants want him? When you can get the best player on your board at pick number three, it overrides even a quarterback, okay? And that's where Shedeur comes into play here. Do you take Shedeur Sanders or do you take Abdul Carter? Best player versus positional value at quarterback. Again, they may try to get back into the first round. Who knows where Shedeur is going to go? But I think Abdul Carter, if you're going to take the highest rated player, and you're picking three to get the best player on your board, would be phenomenal, Field, if that worked out that way, and it looks like it will.
Yeah, and Mel, people need to get over the idea that, like, oh, the Giants are already pretty well stocked at pass rusher. Who cares? Listen, this team has the third overall pick in the draft for a reason. They stink, all right? Yeah, they had a good pass rush last year. There's no such thing as having too good of a pass rush, and if at some point they have too many good pass rushers, you know what they'll do? They'll trade one of them for a king's ransom. The Giants must take Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter, assuming that one of the two is available, which, of course, almost certainly one of the two of them will be available with the Titans locked in on Cam Ward. To me, since we all believe the Giants are not going to take a quarterback at number three, this sets up as the easiest pick in the draft. You take the leftover of the two premium non-quarterbacks. Those who believe that Abdul Carter is the best player in the draft, Greeny, I think feel this way. They have certainty that he will become a great pass rusher. Those same people are dubious that Travis Hunter will either become a great wide receiver or become a great corner, and flat out don't think he'll be able to play enough on both sides of the ball to be a dual threat. I think we're kind of nitpicking here. Mel and I both team Travis Hunter as a number one overall player in the draft, but make no mistake about it. The gap from 1 to 2 is minimal. The gap from 2 to 3, quite large.
So the comparison of Abdul Carter is going to be made to Micah Parsons for a variety of reasons. They wore the same jersey number at Penn State, and Carter was really good in the playoff. Not that Parsons was. Parsons didn't even play his final year of college because of COVID. But is that an apt comparison? NFL people or NFL fans, Mel, like to draw a comparison. Micah Parsons might be the best defensive player in the whole league. Is Carter that level of good?
They look very similar, don't they? And the thing is about Abdul Carter, he had already played and showed what he could do off the ball, and he showed that for 2 years. He showed it where you can, if Thibodeau and Burns, they're the guys off ball. He played it for 2 full years. He moved off the edge, and he had a phenomenal year. Doubled his sack total, doubled his tackles for loss numbers. He showed he could do it anywhere on the football field. Okay, as you said, Micah didn't play that final year with the COVID year. So Abdul Carter coming in, I know the foot injury that people talk about doesn't seem to be a problem moving forward. So for Abdul Carter and the Giants, yes, you go that route. My thing's always been with the Giants, who is going to be that young quarterback brought in? That's going to be the issue as we move past this pick for the Giants, as will be for the Cleveland Browns. Who is going to be that young quarterback that they identify? Yep. Not only they identify, but they're able to get. Because you can identify one and say, that's our guy. Yep. Who says you're going to get him? There's also some other teams that may be interested in that player as well. So the young quarterback brought in for both Cleveland and the Giants is going to be as interesting as any picks in the draft.
I would agree, Greeny. Just to go back to the Parsons versus Abdul Carter comparison, if it's not Micah Parsons, who is the apt comparison for Abdul Carter? 6'3", 245 coming out of college for Micah Parsons. 6'3", 250 coming out of college for Abdul Carter. Yeah, Micah's a better player, and if Abdul Carter even comes close to Micah Parsons, he is worth the number 3 overall pick 10 days out of 10. getting to that level is obviously a high ceiling to reach. That being said, the makings of that kind of player are there. The rare first step explosiveness. These guys are like cheetahs chasing quarterbacks. They smell blood from a mile away and they just hunt these opposing quarterbacks. 12 sacks this past year for Abdul Carter is a very important number. We will see guys who are drafted in the first round this year that would do anything to have that kind of production that Abdul Carter had this past season. So yeah, it's going to take some good fortune to get to the Micah Parsons level, but I think as far as starting point comparisons go, it's a very reasonable and relevant one.
Yeah, the reason why you got to take him, the last thing I'll say, and we'll end this pick right now, is the quarterbacks in the division. When you got to chase, you saw him chase. He can run down, you said cheetah, he'll run down anybody. Jalen Hurts, Jaden Daniels, you got to track down, right? And then you got Dak Prescott, veteran, outstanding quarterback. When you're in a division with those kinds of quarterbacks, you got to stop them. You got to contain them. And Abdul Carter's job will be to do exactly that. Chase Daniels down, chase Hurts down, and prevent the Eagles and Washington from doing the kind of damage on offense they've been able to do. So it makes perfect sense, mainly because of the great player he is and the versatility he has. But when you're dealing with those quarterbacks, that's why you need a player like Carter.
In this draft to get him at 3, the Giants would look good. Let's go on. At number 4, Mel has the Patriots taking Will Campbell, the tackle out of LSU. At number 5, Jacksonville, the defensive tackle Mason Graham. At number 6, the Raiders taking Ashton Genty, sensational running back out of Boise State. The 7th pick is in. I'm listening closely. The New York Jets select offensive tackle Armand Membu, who was the star, the breakout star of the Combine and opened everybody's eyes, and we hope will become, the Jet fans hope will become a plug-and-play right tackle for years to become. I did not mean we. Well, I guess I sort of meant we.
You deserve to say we as far as I'm concerned.
I let a little bit of a we into the conversation there without meaning to. No, I do not have a mouse in my pocket, to quote some who would be tough on that. And then with the 8th pick and then Mel's mock, he's got the Panthers draft so far. We're up to pick number 9, the New Orleans Saints, and this is where everyone is going to lean closer to the television as Roger Goodell walks out there to make his pick. Louis Riddick, with some news this weekend that the Saints had a quarterback situation with Derek Carr on his shoulder. Louis Riddick tweeted that 9th pick is going to be all kinds of interesting. And Deion Sanders, a.k.a. Coach Prime, tweeted those eyeballs, meaning he's keeping a close eye on the situation. And so, with the 9th pick in Mel's final mock of 2025, the New Orleans Saints do indeed select Shedeur Sanders, quarterback, Colorado. Mel.
Well, Lewis is a little late to that party on the Saints saying they're going to be interesting. I mean, are you kidding me? We've been saying Saints have been interesting for a month now. They're interesting because even with Derek Carr, what are they going to look at a quarterback? Remember back in the day, Greeny? It seems like back in the day, I had Jackson Dart going there, right? And one of my mocks early on. And I had Shedeur Sanders going there in this terms of mock, the 3.0, 4.0. When you look at what they need, they are a team that fits Shedeur Sanders because of the dome. We talked about that all the time. You want to criticize his arm? I don't, but if you want to, the dome is going to help. Who else played in that dome? Drew Brees. What did they criticize about Drew coming at his arm? What did they say after he hurt his shoulder? His arm. We can't take him at Miami. You got to go get Culpepper because we don't want him. And he ended up in New Orleans in a dome and became a great quarterback and won a Super Bowl. So for me, Shedeur Sanders makes perfect sense. It did then. It does now. It did before Derek Carr's injury. Okay. Bottom line is they were interesting long before that. And now even more interesting, if you want to say that, if Shedeur Sanders is there, and we're assuming, guys, he will be there. Yeah. That's the assumption,
that's
right?
Yeah.
That everybody's going to let him pass. Nobody's going to move up. Ben Roethlisberger fell to 11 to the Steelers after Rivers and Manning, Eli went early. It's going to happen. Cam Ward goes 1. Shedeur's going to fall down to 9. And the Saints, will they field? Will they now? And I suggested a few weeks ago, will they now take Shedeur Sanders?
Yeah, I think it's possible. I think we have to unpack some of the layers here to this situation. So obviously this news breaking when it did. Friday, April 11th, less than 2 weeks from the NFL draft. Well past free agency and the NFL owners meetings and the scouting combine. And oh, by the way, well past the date in which Derek Carr had his contract restructured to make it that much more onerous to get out of next year, as opposed to the Saints just taking their medicine this offseason, swallowing it and moving on and pivoting. All of this is very confusing for a lot of reasons, Greeny. Now, here's what I don't know. And the Saints, I think, are about as much of a wild card as any team in the entire NFL for this reason. I think any logical human would watch what's happened in New Orleans over the past few years and say, you have the 9th pick in the draft. This would be a reasonable offseason to press reset. right? To strip this thing down to the studs. Get bad before you get good again. You play in a division that might be viewed as more winnable than, let's say, the NFC East as an example. That being said, what's the end game for the Saints right now this year? Maybe you win the division at 9-8, then you get waxed in the first round of the playoffs. We don't want to chase the middle in the NFL. And yet, what did the Saints do this offseason? First, they did restructure Derek Carr. Second of all, go look at some of their spendings in free agency. Justin Reed signed as a safety. Brandon Cooks, 30-plus-year-old wide receiver, signed. This team still thinks it wants to win. So, now that we have those parameters set, you aren't winning if your quarterback is either Derek Carr playing through a shoulder injury or potentially Spencer Rattler here. Quarterback has to be more a part of the conversation now at 9 than it already previously was for the Saints. Mel's been tabbing it as a need. I think it becomes that much more of a need because you might need the player who has a 0-week runway. Whereas if Derek Carr was still around, maybe he had a half-season runway. Maybe Derek Carr goes through 8, 9, 10 games next year and the Saints are 4-6 and they say, it's time to get the young buck some run. Like the Patriots last year with Drake May, right? They probably waited too long, but still, they did have to wait some time before they told Jacoby Brissett, you are no longer the starter. Is it a guarantee that it's a quarterback at number 9? I'm not totally convinced of that, but make no mistake about it. The teams behind the Saints, Greeny, are saying to themselves, if we're interested in Shedeur Sanders and only Shedeur Sanders, we might now have to get all the way up to number 8 in order to land Shedeur Sanders because you have to assume New Orleans is strongly considering that player. Deion Sanders told us at Colorado Showcase he loves the colors black and gold, like the colors he wears at Colorado. I, of course, interpreted that as he would like Shedeur Sanders as a Saint.
Yeah, and the Steelers wear similar colors, but they don't pick till 21.
Yep.
So, you know, he's hoping he doesn't get down to there. Okay, let's keep going. Rounding out the top 10, the Chicago Bears have the 10th pick. Mel has them taking Tyler Warren, the outstanding tight end out of Penn State. So we can look at where we stand with the top 10 picks so far. Cam Ward at the top, Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, Will Campbell, Mason Graham going 5, Ashton Genty off the board at 6, Armand Membu going 7 to the Jets, Jalen Walker, Shedeur, and Tyler Warren is where we stand. Field, give me a quick take on what jumps out to you about the top 10.
Here's what I would say, Mel, Greeny. It's so chalky that I actually think Mel might go for 1 for 10 here, right? Like, in this wildly unpredictable draft that is so different than last year's, and I'm not saying this to poke fun at Mel. Like, I'm saying this because as I prepare for my final mock draft, and it might look something like this, I'm saying to myself, we've been saying for 7 months, no one knows how the top of the draft is going to go. And we've all kind of landed on similar landing spots for players in this top 10. I think the Raiders at number 6 are perhaps the lever for all of this. I really feel like the first 4 picks are going to be some combination of Cam Ward, Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter, and then Will Campbell, just given the Patriots' gigantic need at left tackle. I feel like the Raiders at pick 6 are the one, because as great as Ashton Genty is, and as hand in glove of a fit as it might be, and as desperate as their running back need is, this is still a team that can find a running back later in the draft. Every GM that's spoken publicly has lauded the depth of the class, like Mel and I have since September, right? And John Spytek, their GM now in Las Vegas, has talked about this all the time. He loves offensive linemen. He loves linemen in general. He talked about that one of his recent press conferences. I have not ruled out the Raiders not going with a running back at number 6. And if that happens, all this stuff could get flipped